Hello, everyone. This is Brian Berry from ScanForce once again with another edition in our educational webinar series. Today, we're going to be focusing on getting boxes out of the warehouse, pick, pack, and ship for Stage 100. I know that many of you are existing customers of ours that are looking for ways to expand your use of ScanForce and add efficiencies. We welcome you in. Others are members of our Sage Partner Channel Network, and you're looking for cool new toys that you can go to your customers and say, hey, remember that problem you were having in the warehouse? Have I found a solution for you? We're very glad you're here. But still, others of you may be net new to us, and you may not be familiar with who we are at ScanForce. You may have just been forwarded an email that talks about picking and packing, and it struck some interest. So we're glad to have you as well. So a couple of quick housekeeping things. My name is Brian Berry. I head up the 100 team here. So I'll be your liaison for anything ScanForce that deals with Sage 100. Everyone is muted, of course, as always in these kinds of settings, but there is a chat feature, and we would love for you to input questions and comments. Our marketing guru, Woody, is monitoring those, and at the end, we'll do some Q&A, and we'll do our best to get all of your questions answered. Also, everyone in attendance, or actually everyone that registered, will get a link to this recording. It'll come out in a day or two once we have a chance to polish it up and fix all of my misspeaks, and we'll get that out to you. So I'm going to go pretty fast today because we've got a lot of ground to cover in shipping, and I may gloss over a topic. So if you can take that recording and pause it and sort of digest that a little bit more here at a second time. So let's dive right in. I'm going to start with a very brief introduction as to who ScanForce is for those of you that may be new to us, but I promise I won't bore the rest of you too much. Also, I promise I don't read screens. I tell you this every time at the beginning of all of these. We all went to kindergarten. Everybody knows how to read. You'll get a copy of this and you can read it for yourself. The baseline here is we've been around for a long time, and we've got a lot of people using our solution. So we're a master developer in the Sage 100 world. We have access to the source code, so we can do a lot of really cool things behind the scenes. And when it comes to what we do, WMS stands for Warehouse Management System, fancy word for barcoding. Basically, we have solutions that allow you to collect data in the warehouse on the shop floor and send it directly back into Sage. And all the distribution functions are covered with these three versions of our warehouse management system that we call Core, Select, and Premier. You can do receiving, transfers, physical counts, shipping, and a whole bunch of other things. And we add features and functions as you move up the chain, okay? And what good would we be as a barcoding company if we could not print labels? We can print them on demand at receipt of goods, when you're manufacturing, if that's something that you do, at the time of shipping, and a couple of other occasions. So we can definitely generate those labels for you. It's all built in. And for those of you that do manufacturing, bill of materials, production management, we can handle it whether you're make to order, make to stock. We have both bill of materials and production management built into our solution, and we can bring that to bear for you if you want to collect data on production as well. Now, as a completely separate topic that we really won't discuss much further today beyond this, we do have also mobile sales. Mobile sales is for those of you that have outside sales or route sales, and you go and visit your customers, you take orders or want to generate quotes out in the field, disconnected from Sage. You could do it on a tablet or a phone, and then the information flows back over either cellular or Wi-Fi and follows directly into Sage, making a quote or order, invoice, or whatever. So if you have a will call counter and you want to take orders disconnected from the counter, or if you go to a trade show and you want to collect orders, let's talk about mobile sales. Otherwise, let's move on. What we think really sets us apart, speed. Our solution, very stable, very fast. You see that 0.03 seconds. We did a study over 1 million records, and it went and found one discrete piece of information in less than 0.03 of a second, which even in computer terms is really, really fast. It's also very intuitive. Don't think that your users are going to have to learn 18 or even 8 different functions in the system. Once you learn how to do one thing like receiving, shipping a sales order becomes very intuitive because the screens look much the same. Because if you think about it, whether you're bringing it in or sending it out, you still need to know what it is, where it come from, how many you got. So the screen layout is very, very familiar. Once you learn one thing, really easy to pick up on the rest. And finally, support. This is one of those things where I'm going to tell you how awesome we are, but I'm also going to tell you not to take my word for it. Ask anybody in the Sage 100 world, they'll tell you the same thing. ScanForce, cut above when it comes to support. Okay. All right. Let's get to the meat of the matter, why you came today. ScanForce's pick, pack, and ship. Now, your warehouse may not look quite as complicated as this one, but I put this picture up there for a purpose. We can operate in this environment. We can also operate in a very small, 1 or 2 users, more of a storage closet than a warehouse. Okay. We have a solution. Remember the Core, Select, and Premier versions of our WMS? We have a solution that will fit your needs and your budget, no matter what that is. We have some users with just 1 or 2 scanners and it does everything they need. We have other users have dozens and dozens and dozens across multiple sites and multiple states, and they do manufacturing and all these other things. So ScanForce runs the gamut. We can handle all of those. Okay. Now, before we dig in and start talking about all the cool add-ons that ScanForce has to add efficiencies or tweak a process in the pick, pack, ship arena, I want to do a quick demo for you. I want to show you what the system looks like in its base form. Because if you don't understand what the base is, you won't really be able to evaluate what the other options might be. So let me do this very quickly. Let me change my screen share real quick. Bear with me one quick second. I promise I'm getting there. Just waiting on GoToMeeting to catch up with me. Okay, there's the screen that I want to share out. So here we are. I have Sage shrunk up over on the left-hand side, and I have my handheld over here on the right-hand side. Now, the handheld would look something like this. It looks very much like a phone. It's got, the front and the back. This is a 6-inch diagonal touchscreen. It's got a camera on the back. Most people will snap it into the optional pistol grip like this, and they can scan right out the nose. This becomes a gun configuration. It's very, very common. This is probably what 80 to 90% of our users are using in their hand every day to interact with ScanForce. And this is what that screen looks like. I'm on my order processing menu where we process purchase orders and sales orders. So you'll see I've got one option for PO receiving. I have one option down at the bottom for RMA receiving, which is an add-on that I demoed for somebody not too long ago, so it's still on my screen. But today we're going to concentrate on these 3: sales order, picking, packing, shipping, all these functions. Now, out of the box, we can give you 1 or 2 different options. We call them the one-step method or the two-step method. The one-step method is this SO shipping tab right here, where you assign like a pick ticket, if you will, coming out of Sage to an individual picker. And that one person takes that one order. They gather all the items, put them in boxes, pallets, or however they're going out the door, slap a label on it. It's out the door. That's SO shipping. We call that the one-step method. So one person picking one order all at one time. It's the one-step method. Or we can break that into 2 parts, and we call that picking and checking packing. Okay. Now, the benefit, there's really a couple of benefits here, actually. You could have one person go and pick all the items, and then they'll bring it to a checking station, a packing or wrapping station, somewhere like that. And then a second person can go into this option and they can do a double check. So if you're the kind of company where you feel like you have just too many missed shipments, it's costing you time, money, and grief of your customers, this double check can be an absolute godsend for you. Okay. And then at the end of the double check, they pack it up and get it out the door. At the end of the one-step method or the end of the two-step method, either way, we're going to flip this back over to Sage, and it's going to go into the either shipping data entry or invoice data entry. And from there, your normal accounting functions will take over. Okay. So let me just run through really quick one example of each of these. Okay. And then you'll kind of have a baseline of what the capabilities of ScanForce are right out of the box. Then we can talk about some of the peripherals that we can add on to add efficiency or tweak a process. Now, you may find that this right out of the box meets all of your needs. That's great. But I want you to know that there's some other options out there in an a la carte menu fashion that you could add to this, again, to add some efficiencies. So let's start with the simplest option, which is sales order shipping. Let me go in there first. Now, the first thing ScanForce wants to know in all transactions is what's the transaction number. In this case, what's the sales order number? Well, I have one out there, number 202. Now, when I hit that, see that little loading box that pops up there? It's only there for just a sec or two. And what that does, it goes into Sage and it grabs all the information about that sales order and pulls it down to my handheld. This order happens to have two lines on it. And it's the first line is over here on aisle A, 100, bin 20. The second one is still on aisle A, rack 200, bin 20. So they're in two different places, but close by each other. And here's my item code, 1901. That's an orange widget. I need one of those. And 1902 is a gray widget. I need one of those. So that's everything on this order. I kept it very simple just for our purposes of demoing it today. Now up at the top, I have this package feature. This is a base Sage function. Honestly, a lot of people don't even know is there. We can tell you what goes in what package. So if you're going to have 2 boxes or 10 boxes, we can tell what items are in what package. So it's what box or what pallet number you're putting them on. Okay. So again, that's there if you want to use it. If you don't, there's a setting that turns it off and you don't have to, but I like to show it because it's a Sage feature that a lot of you might be using. So the way this would work, I'm just looking at this and I'm going to say, well, I need to go to aisle A 120. I go to that place and I find item 1901. I scan it. It would populate here and it would validate that that is accurate. Okay, this is the first real use of barcode scanning. When we scan it, it's going to validate that it's actually on that sales order. And if it is, it will automatically flip me over to this screen. Okay, and I'm going to enter the location, just verify that I'm taking it from the right place, and verify the number that I'm picking. I'm supposed to just do 1, and so I will grab that. Okay, and then what happens if you scan the wrong thing? So I go to A220, but I mistakenly scan a barcode that's over here next to that item, invalid. It won't let me do that. It won't let you pick the wrong thing. Okay, that's the validation that we're doing all along the way. When I scan the right one, it advances me to the next screen. I verify the location where I'm pulling it from, and then I enter the quantity. Now, you saw me interact with item codes and quantities, but also locations. That's because I'm doing this in a multi-bin environment. Now, not everyone needs or is using multi-bin. That's okay. The screens are exactly the same if you're not using multi-bin, with the exception of it doesn't ask you to verify the location. That's really the only difference. But using multi-bin, you get the benefit of that great visibility, and all it costs you is 1 extra barcode scan. So you'd walk up to that place and you would scan the item and the place. Beep, beep. The only extra lift from users is the second beep. Okay. All right. I'm going to hit this little paper airplane icon up here at the top. That allows me to get to a summary screen. It tells me I've collected 2 records. I'm going to hit send. The little sending box there is telling me that it's now sending through the Wi-Fi. That is now back in Sage. It's in either shipping data entry or invoice data entry, ready for you to do all of your accounting magic to it. Okay, so that's the 1-step process. That is SO shipping. Okay, now if we want to do SO picking and checking packing, the screen layout is virtually identical, except for the fact that we're going to do a double check here. So watch what happens. I'm going to do order number 203. And it's asking me for the location I'm going to send them to. So I'm going to pick them and it's going to go to what location. Normally you would just scan a barcode for the location, but since I'm doing this in a PC environment so I can show this to you via the GoToMeeting, I'm not using the actual barcode scanner. So I'm just going to click over here and select my shipping dock. That's the location. I'm sorry, I was testing this beforehand. I'd already picked the items. Let me unpick them real quick. So this is what it would look like when you come in there, okay? I've got my 2 items. I'm gonna go ahead and scan the item, verify the location, and I'm gonna pick 40 of them. And just like the last one, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one as well. Scan the item, verify the location. I've got 40 of those as well, okay? And just like we talked about last time, if you scan the wrong item code, you saw what happened. It tells you it's an invalid item. If you enter the bad quantity, it would tell you that quantity is not correct, doesn't match. So the system's always watching over your shoulder to make sure you don't make the careless mistake. Okay, back to my paper airplane. Here's my send option. I'm going to go ahead and send that over to Sage. Now, this is a little different than the last time because last time it was a one-step process where I did SO shipping all the way through to the end. It went back to Sage. Sage created an invoice number for that. But in this case, we've only picked the item. We've done the first part, but not the second part. So what happens over here in Sage, if I go to sales order entry and I look at this sales order, number 203, when I go to the lines, you see there's an extra column here that you've never seen before. It's called quantity picked. So ordered quantity was 40 of each, and I picked 40 of each. So this is our way of telling Sage what we're doing, because right now, this order is kind of in a quasi state. It's been picked, but not shipped. This is how we tell Sage what we've done. And this is kind of cool from a salesperson or a customer service rep perspective. So if someone calls in and says, hey, where's my stuff? You can look here and say, oh, well, I can see it's been picked complete. Let me get a ship date on that for you, okay? So we're just telling Sage what we're doing by creating that new column, okay? Now, I told you one of the big benefits was the double check. So if you have missed shipments, we can take those down to nil because you got two people checking that order, making sure by scanning the barcodes. There's another big benefit to doing the two-step process. I picked that order and I can set it aside and stage it. And it can sit over there until I'm ready to ship it. Now, it may ship later today. It may ship tomorrow. It may be next week or next month. It really doesn't matter. The point is, I don't have to do the second step, which would in Sage create the invoice until I'm ready. So whenever I know the truck is coming or what have you, I can go in and do the second step, and it's going to look almost identical to the first. Identify the sales order. It's number 203. There's my loading box again. So it's going into Sage to make sure I don't have any changes. I'm going to verify the shipping dock location. That's where these items are stored now. Remember, we picked them. Now they're sitting on my shipping dock, and I have 40 of each. And there's that package feature again, if you want to utilize that, just like we talked about before. Don't have to, but it's an option. And at this point, we're just going to sort of a lather, rinse, repeat. We're just going to rescan the items to make sure that they're accurate. We scan the first one, it validates that it's correct, and I validate the quantity that's on there. And then I can revalidate the second item, validate its quantity, hit the paper airplane to get to my summary screen. I've collected 2 records. I send that over, and now that's over in shipping data entry. Okay, so just that quick, you can ship orders. I actually shipped 2 orders, and it actually took me longer to explain what I was doing than to actually press the buttons on the screen. So it's really fast, and you saw all the validation that we do, where we're always checking to make sure that it's the right item and it's the right quantity that you're actually picking and shipping out the door. And remember, out of the box, we can have a one-step process, and we can have a two-step process with the double check and potentially staging and holding that order until you're ready to ship it, okay? Imagine this. Today is not so heavy, but you know that tomorrow is just going to be slammed with orders. So you have somebody go ahead and pick ahead today for things that aren't going to ship until tomorrow, and they stage them. Then you can do the second step tomorrow. But you've already done the hard part, which is walking the warehouse and gathering all this stuff up. I know some of your warehouses look like the end of Indiana Jones when they're putting the ark away. It just goes on forever. So doing the picking day 1 and then doing the packing, the checking, packing, getting it shipped out on day 2 can be a big benefit for you. Okay. All right. I'm going to, again, change up my screen share here, and let's go back to the presentation. And I'm going to walk you through some of the cool bells and whistles that we can use to add on based on, what we just talked about. Okay. All right. Let me get all this working again now that I got my screen share there. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about for the rest of our time together today. I know it's a long list. This just shows you how expansive ScanForce's offering is in the picking shipping area. Okay. And actually, this isn't even everything we're going to talk about. I've got a couple other bells and whistles that I will interdisperse. In fact, the very last thing I think is one of the coolest. Sorry for teasing it, but if you're interested in getting rid of paper in your warehouse, You're going to want to stick around to the very end because the very last thing we're going to talk about sort of puts a bow on all this, ties it all together, and talks about how you can go completely paperless. Okay. Now, if we look at this young lady here on the screen, she's got her handy dandy scanner up there and she's collected a box and she's typing in quantities or whatever she's doing. But you'll notice there's barcodes on the items, there's barcodes on the places. So in this situation, this is obviously a pretty decent sized warehouse and looks at it. They've got lots of locations, lots of places where they might have boxes or pallets worth of stuff. So some of you might want to use multi-bin. I want to talk about multi-bin for just a moment and explain what that concept is. And then we'll get into these other options. And a lot of these options work either with or without multi-bin. Some of them it's required, but most of them not. And I'll try to point that out as we go through. And one of the first things we'll do, and we have a one-on-one conversation, if you have interest in adding any of this, is I'm going to ask you some leading questions and we'll figure out if multi-bin is right for you, or maybe it's down the road kind of thing. So we'll figure out which one of these options might work in the environment that you have today. So let's go and talk just a little bit about multi-bin. Sage is a single bin system. It assumes that all like items are on the same shelf together. And we know that's not overly realistic. In this example, this is a white widget, item code 1905, and it's a component that's used in my production in this example. I have a location called components for production. I have moved 25 units over there. So the workers running the production line can just grab units right there beside them without having to go into the racks over to aisle A or aisle D or aisle E, where it may have more quantities. I also have an overstock or overflow location for bulk inventory. I've got 300 units sitting over there. On the receiving dock, I've got 50 units that may have just come in this morning and haven't even been put away yet. And I've got 15 units that have been pulled. They've already been gone through maybe that's the picking step and they've been staged. Remember we talked about that just a moment ago? Maybe I staged these 15 and I'm waiting for the truck to show up so I can ship it out. Okay, so multi-bin expands Sage inventory. See the big green S? This is a Sage screen, folks. This is not in ScanForce. This is inside your Sage, expanded out to show all these locations where multi-bin can live. Okay, so I just want to give you a flavor of multi-bin. We didn't really come today prepared to talk a lot about multi-bin. Today is about the picking side of things, but for those of you that want more information, hey, we're a barcoded company. We do cool things with barcodes. Get your phone out, hold it up with the camera, and you can link there to a webinar just like this that I did a few months ago, specifically on multi-bin. Okay, if you don't have time to get your phone out, that's okay. You're going to get a copy of this, or just ping us an email and say, hey, I'm curious about multi-bin. I promise we'll get you the copy of the video so you can watch that webinar. Okay, all right. Now, if you have multi-bin, there's one other little trick that we can use with picking. Okay, so this is the next thing I'm going to discuss is a multi-bin function. It's called auto allocations. So if I have stuff in a bunch of different places, how do I decide where I'm going to go pick it? Well, you could just let the pickers decide just willy-nilly. They can go anywhere they want. Or the salesperson, when they enter the order, they could say, I want to pick from this inventory, maybe because of lots or serials or physical chemical properties of the product, whatever there is, and they can specify uniquely. Or you can let ScanForce make that decision for you based on business rules that we set up. FIFO by far and away is the most common. So that's the one I'm going to use as an example, but that's not your only option. Okay, we can do it based on pick efficiencies, and there's some special rules for lots and serial items. But FIFO is something everybody kind of understands, first in, first out. The last thing that came in, I don't want to ship that. Okay, that's brand new. I want to ship the stuff that's been here that's getting dusty or getting rusty or about to expire or whatever. So expiration dates, things of that nature, FIFO is a great use of your warehouse metrics. Okay, so what ScanForce can do, we allow you to set up a business rule at a high level that says, I want to run my warehouse in a FIFO environment. That trickles down through our application. ScanForce knows, remember that multi-bin example I showed you a moment ago where I had 3 different pickable bins and I had an overflow bulk storage bin and all that? ScanForce knows the date that all those bins were populated. So it knows what's the oldest stuff. We can go ahead and reserve, or the term that we use is allocate, that inventory in Sage, and it can send the user to that place to go get it. And the way that we do all this is through a process called directed picking. Once we decide the best place to pick it, the handheld can actually send the user to the right place based on that allocation. Now, for those of you that are not using multi-bin, directed picking can still work for you too. Even though Sage is a single bin system, there is a field in item maintenance for location. So you can put in one location, the static location where that item always lives 100% of the time. And we can still use that. Directed picking is pretty cool. Not only can it use like the aids, like FIFO, like we talked about, okay, but it can also, once it decides the best place to pick things, or the only place if you're not using multi-bin, it can then do something really cool. It shuffles the picking order to put in what I would call pick efficiency order. Okay, let me show you what I mean by showing you a screen of the handheld. So you notice this picking screen, I've got red widgets and allotted widgets and serialized widgets and some more if I keep scrolling. But look at the locations. Starts on aisle A, then aisle C100, then C200, then E. So what it's done is ScanForce has shuffled the order of the line items, not the order they were entered on the sales order, but in pick efficiency order. Go to aisle A first and get everything there. There's nothing on aisle B. So then go to aisle C and there's two things there. So get both of them while you're there before you skip aisle D and then hit aisle E. So you can walk a serpentine path to your warehouse one time and get everything. The point is we don't want your workers crisscrossing themselves. You go to aisle A, then you go to aisle Z, then you go to aisle B, then you go to aisle Q, then you go to aisle H, and they're walking back and forth and crisscrossing. I always say footsteps cost you money and ScanForce saves you footsteps, okay? I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt one day. So what this will do is make your workers a heck of a lot more efficient. If you're looking for ROI, this is a biggie because the same number of people can be a lot more efficient and get a lot more done because directed picking is working for you. And again, this is one of those things that can work either in a multi-bin environment or a non-multi-bin environment. You can still take advantage of it if we denote the locations where these items normally live. Okay? All right, new topic, wave picking. What if you have, let's say, one customer that enters maybe 5 orders against you at one time, and you're trying to build a shipment to go out to them. And if there's 1 or 2 fast mover items, those items may show up on almost all of those orders. It's the same item, they just order it repetitively because it's a fast mover, okay? A real nuts and bolts type item that is ordered a lot. Well, if you're picking those orders one at a time, you're going to have to go to that location every time for once for each of those 5 sales orders. Wouldn't it be cool if we could sort of group those together and let the worker go to that location one time and get the total quantity that they need across all 5 orders, and then ScanForce will split it up for me and denote, the appropriate amount to each order so they all get invoiced correctly. Well, that's exactly what wave picking does. Wave picking is an enhancement that can be added on top of the 1-step, the 2-step, the directed picking, the auto allocations, the multi-bin. Those are all sort of base functions of the system. This is the first enhancement that we've really talked about. This is one of those options that you can add from the a la carte menu. If you maybe it's not one customer's orders, maybe you're the type of company where you deliver your stuff on your own truck and you have a northeastern or southwestern route. You're trying to build a route where you can put all the southwestern orders on one wave and someone can pick them all simultaneously and load that truck. Meanwhile, somebody else is loading the northeastern load or what have you. So it's a way of grouping orders together to make picking more efficient. Okay, maybe because it's a route, maybe because it's all the UPS orders, and that the UPS driver shows up at 2:30 every day, and they got to be done by a certain time. You want to pick them simultaneously, or maybe you're trying to group orders for a customer. Whatever the reason, wave picking allows you to group orders together, and this is what it looks like on the handheld. So I created a wave. It's wave number 5. I titled it Brian's Wave because it's my responsibility to pick it. And there were 2 orders on this wave. And then when we go over here to directed picking, I've got item 1901, 1902, and 1903. Now, what you can't see behind the scenes, in these two orders, item 1901 was on both of them. One had a quantity of 10, one had a quantity of 30. So I'm showing a total quantity of 40. So the user can go here one time, pick 40 in the picking phase, and then in the checking packing step 2, we can split those up. And if they need to go in different boxes because they get labeled differently or invoiced differently or what have you, they still can. The point is, wave picking allows you to group things together to make picking more efficient. Okay. Now, let's talk about the exact opposite. Instead of grouping small orders together into one big one, what if we have one big one and we want to split it into multiples to make picking more efficient so we can throw more warm bodies at it? Okay, that's what our split picking enhancement does. So with split picking, if I've got one big order and I want to have more than one person picking at a time, that's what split picking will do for me. And we give you multiple metrics that you can split by. A real world example, I have one customer, they make big pumps. And every time they sell a pump, there's a certain number of spare parts, individual parts and pieces that go with it, consumable things that wear out, I guess. Well, they're in completely different areas of the warehouse. So split picking, what it does is it reads the product class, the product group, and it says, okay, these are pumps, these are spare parts, and it will essentially create two different pick tickets. It starts with the sales order, but there's a -A and a -B. So ScanForce treats them as two completely separate orders, so two people can be in them independently and not trip over each other's feet and save over one another's work. They each do independently their own part, and then they roll back up together. This is done through picking. And then in the second step, which is checking packing, we bring it all back together so we can get it shipped out together in unison. So I talked about like different product groups like pumps versus spare parts. You can also do it by, just physical areas of the warehouse. You can do it by other criteria. One that's really popular is just by sheer number of line items. If you have really big orders, maybe you get the first 20, I get the next 20, and Joe below over there gets the next 20. Okay. And the system will just break it like that. And we still have directed picking that takes us to the right places at the right time. Okay. Now, let's shift gears from wave picking and split picking. Let's talk about these two options, InstaShip and Ship All. Honestly, these are not used a lot, but for the people that use it, it's a big deal. So it may be a big deal for you. Let me explain. What Ship All does, you basically bypass the whole picking process. You just enter a sales order number and hit the button that says ship it. It's that simple. You enter the sales order number, hit ship it, it's gone. Now, obviously, most of us came here today because we want the efficiencies and the accuracies of barcodes, and we want to scan everything to make sure it's the right one. We talked about double checks and all that. That's riddled throughout the system. This definitely bypasses all of that, but there are some reasons why someone would want to just ship all. Maybe they have a bunch of stuff in one container, crate, whatever, and rather than opening it up and looking at every part and piece, they just know it's all there. So they're just going to hit a big button that says ship the whole darn thing. That's what Ship All does. Okay. InstaShip is a derivation of a theme. You still would pick all the line items like we talked about before, but instead of doing the double check where we rescanned all the items and checked it, you just hit the button that says ship it. So you pick it and you can stage it, and then you can just hit ship and it's all out the door. Okay. So again, these definitely won't apply for everybody or even most people, but for the ones that need it, it's really a huge efficiency gain. Okay. All right, let's move on and talk about pallets. I love talking about pallets. If you have forklifts, if you have pallets or skids or side loaders or pallet jacks or whatever running around your warehouse, we need to talk because ScanForce has a lot that we can offer you that will add a great deal of efficiency. First of all, just generically in pallet tracking, what it does is it allows us to group everything on this pallet right here and say it's on pallet number 1001. And then everything on this top pallet, we can say that's on pallet 1002. Now, with the scanner, we can interact with those barcodes for 1001 or 1002, and everything that we do to the pallet happens to the whole lot of the stuff that's on there. So if I want to pick it up and move it from point A to point B, I don't have to tell it all 50 things that are on that pallet. I just scan the pallet and then I scan the new place and the pallet moves over there and everything on the pallet instantly moves in Sage. And I mean instantly. There's no batch process there. We know Sage 100 is a very batch happy system. We can bypass that, okay? So let's take a look at what this would look like inside Sage. Here we are back in a multi-bin view. See the green S? This is a Sage screen. This is multi-bin. Aisle A, aisle B, my bulk overstock storage, finished goods from production, shipping, staging, receiving dock. I can tell you exactly where everything is, but now I've added a new column called Pallet. So these are just loose products or cases sitting on shelves that don't have a pallet designation. But these three are actual pallets ending in 102, 108, and 110. So I can tell you exactly how many of these orange widgets are on each of these pallets. And if I double click on this pallet 102, it opens up another window. And now I can look inside the shrink wrap of this pallet and tell you exactly what's on the pallet. Okay, so not only are there orange widgets, but there's 10 gray widgets as well. And obviously, you don't have to have just two. You can have as many things on there as you wish. Now, I know a lot of companies, you just have one type of thing on a pallet. It's a whole pallet of one thing. That's fine. This works equally as well. But for those of you that mix pallets, this is a huge benefit because you can build a pallet one time, and then you never have to interact with all the parts and pieces again. You could move it around the warehouse. Heck, you could ship the whole darn thing just by scanning one barcode. Let me show you what that looks like, okay? I could pick to a pallet. Here's that same directed picking screen we saw before with aisle A, aisle B, aisle C, okay? Gray widgets, orange widgets, and on so and so. Up here, though, I have a new field called license plate. And if I hit the little plus sign, it gives me the next license plate. By the way, a license plate is just a pallet ID. It's the same thing, okay? So we generically call it a license plate because not everybody ships in pallets. Some people ship in totes or gaylords, which are just big boxes, or other methods, bags, barrels, baskets, whatever. But pallets is the most common. So I kind of use license plate and pallet ID kind of interchangeably, all right? So I get the next one in sequence, which is going to be pallet or license plate 37. Then I can scan this item and put all 8 of them on there. Or maybe if only 4 fit, I put 4 on there. Then I increment up to the next one and I do the next 4 on pallet number 38. Or maybe it's pallet 42 because other people are working simultaneously and maybe they grab the next pallet number. It doesn't matter because the system knows what's on each one and it's saved in Sage, okay? Once you scan them all into pallets, we have a screen like this that you can look inside each pallet, 37, 38, 39, and it shows you the collection of items or parts and pieces that you put on each of these pallets. So when I was picking this, I started with 37, and I put these 3 items on 37, and then I put some on 38 and some on 39 and so forth, okay? And either here, I've got a printer icon, or here, I can print a pallet ID tag for this shipment. You just hit the button, and it will spit it out. And most people will have a big chunky barcode at the top that says, hey, I'm pallet number 37 or 38 or 39. And then underneath it can actually list out all the stuff that's on it, which is great because if you're walking around looking, you can just read the labels and see what's there. Or think about this, when it hits your customer's dock, they may not have a barcoding system that's as cool as yours, okay? Poor them. But they can look at the shrink wrap and they can see the label stuck to the outside of that shrink wrap and see exactly what's inside of it and know which pallet they want to grab first. It's a nice little value add, okay? And then when it comes time to ship it, we've already identified on order number 182, I have pallet ending in 37, 38, 39. All of them are sitting on my shipping dock. That's what the shipping means. So this is the order number and its location. It's order number 182 sitting on the shipping dock. I have 3 effort pallets. To ship this order, all you do is scan these 3 barcodes. Boom, 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 whole order shipped. Could have been 100 line items on there. Doesn't matter. It ships just by scanning 3 barcodes because Sage knows what's under the shrink wrap on every one of these. So huge, huge efficiency gain here to use pallets because it's a classic touch it once instead of touch it 2 or 3 times situation. Okay? All right, slightly new topic. Let's talk about our mobile ship enhancement. If you're using StarShip or RateLinx, or if you're familiar with those two, these are shipping systems that plug into Sage 100 that do things like rate shopping, and they integrate to WorldShip and all these other carriers that are out there. Well, we can integrate to them as well. And again, big efficiency gains to be had here. All right, let me explain by showing you some screenshots. So when I'm shipping something, if I scan an item like this desk, okay, 10 of them, whatever, then it's going to bring up this little package info screen. And I can put in the weight, and maybe I weigh it and I just type it in off the scale. Maybe we integrate to a scale and it flows in if you want to get really fancy. Or if you know the theoretical weight of an item, we could just multiply it times the quantity. So if it's a 1 pound thing and you got 10 of them, that'd be a 10 pound thing. Okay. So whether it's a desk or a printer stand, we're going to calculate the weight. And this is a drop down that gives us the box size. Now, based on the ship via of this order, we know if it's going like UPS or FedEx, for instance. Okay. And we know all of the UPS boxes, actually the StarShips or the RateLinx of the world, they know which box sizes you're going to use. And you simply select it from the drop down. You can do a custom size here as well if you have some oddball stuff, okay? But the point is, we could calculate this for you. Your user just is going to do a drop down, select which size box, and then when they hit send, two things happen. The data flows back into Sage, so we know exactly what was picked and what was shipped out, but we're also going to ping the StarShip or the RateLinx behind the scenes and say, hey, here's all the data, including the weight and box sizes. Give me my labels, and the shipping labels will just magically print out. So if you're used to today going into StarShip or RateLinx and navigating through and entering all this extra data and then hitting print and then getting all that goes away. Your users don't even know that RateLinx and StarShip exist. They're just scanning things into boxes on ScanForce's handheld, and they hit the send button, and their labels just appear like magic. Think of the time savings on every box that goes out your door. All those parcel shipments that go to UPS or FedEx, if they never had to deal with the UPS or the FedEx side of the shipping, if they just scan stuff into boxes, which is faster than writing stuff down anyway, and then the labels just magically appeared out of thin air, what's the time gain on every box? That's your ROI for the whole barcoding system right there. Okay. Completely different topic now. Image capture. A lot of our customers say, you know what? When we ship something, our boxes, our pallets, it's all packaged, it's pristine. But then it gives a carrier, it gets shipped across the country and they beat it all to hell. Okay. And now I got to fight with the carrier, and they say it's my fault I didn't package it right, or the skid wasn't banded correctly, or yada, yada, yada. Wouldn't it be cool if you had a picture that you could just email the carrier and say, this is what it looked like when you picked it up. This is your fault. That's what this does. This is called outbound image capture. And while you're using the scanner that you use to scan it into boxes and print your labels and all that jazz, you can just hit a button and take a picture instead of going and getting a camera. You do it with the device that's in your hand. And when you send the data back to Sage, the picture goes to, we create a special folder for you in Sage, and all the image files get saved there. And the name of the individual image files start with that sales order number. So anybody could go into that folder, that image folder, a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years from now, type in that sales order number, and boom, there's your pictures. So now you got a little coverage on the back end for these shipments that you ship cross country and the carrier beat up. I call it the CYA enhancement for short. Okay. So it's a really cool add-on. This image capture stuff has become our number one enhancement. That's the number one thing that people want to add. When they see this, gets them really excited. Okay. All right. The very last topic. This is the one that I teased to you in the beginning. Let's talk about how we can get rid of paper. We call it order assignment. Now, this is a very kind of grainy picture. I know it always comes across grainy when you're looking at it on GoToMeeting. I apologize. But this is our management console, like our dashboard. Those of you who are existing customers, you probably use this all day, every day. but we have this extra tab called SO user assignment that we can add on here. And what it's showing you is a list of all of your orders, and all of these are filterable. Okay, order numbers, order date, the ship via method. You can slice and dice this and get it down to whatever list you want, like all of my UPS orders for day or all my LTL orders for tomorrow or whatever. Then you just highlight one by clicking it, and right here, this drop down would list all of your pickers. You can assign it to the picker. And if you've got a really critical order, a really picky customer, or really special packaging needs, assign it to your best guy. Okay. Or if you've got 2 big orders and 10 small orders, maybe that's the same amount of work. So you could assign 2 big ones to one person and 10 small ones to somebody else, and they're going to get done at the same time. So it allows you to balance your workload. Okay. But the best part is, when the user has the ScanForce handheld in their hand, when they go to SO picking, they're going to see the list of orders that you sent to them. They don't need any paper. You don't have to print any pick ticket. Think of the trees that we could save. Well, personally, ScanForce is going to save the rainforest. Okay. So you can assign the orders. They flow directly to the users, and they just click them off the list and start working. And if you want, there's a setting behind the scenes that says when you're done with your list, then it shows you all the unassigned orders, and they can start picking those off too. So imagine a warehouse with no paper in it. Everything flows over the Wi-Fi. Everything goes into Sage instantly. All the stuff gets validated, the right item, the right quantity. Users are told exactly where to go and exactly how many to pick. It's based on FIFO or pick efficiency or whatever rule you set up. And all the while, there's no paper. Okay. So we can mix and match multiples of these together if you're interested, or maybe one of them tickled your fancy. I would love to talk to you about your specific needs and your specific warehouse environment. Now, put all of our contact info up there. That info at ScanForce address, that goes to my entire team. I see it, so do they. I do a lot of demos. I may have back-to-back demos one afternoon. I just can't get to your emails. But if you send it to info, somebody on the team sees it. Somebody can get back to you right away, and we can answer those questions. We can send you the link to the multi-bin video. If you're in manufacturing, I'll send you a link to a manufacturing video so you can see how stuff works. Then we can do a live presentation, and I can do some point and click like I did during the demo portion of our conversation today. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring Woody in. He's our marketing guru, and he's been monitoring the chat. Woody, do you have any kind of questions for me that I can answer for the good folks?
Yes, we do have a few questions, and there's still time if you would like to get one in for Brian to answer. We'll start with the first one. When the item is picked, is allocated in multi-bin?
So that's kind of backwards, honestly. What happens when you enter the sales order, we can do the allocation. And then it tells the picker what allocated bin to go to. Now, there's also a timing element there. Some people will say, I want to allocate as soon as the order is entered so nobody can sell that stock. We guarantee it to that customer. Other people say, in my business, I may get 2 orders today. One ships tomorrow, one doesn't ship for a month because I got to do stuff to it. Okay. I don't want to allocate the one that's not going to ship for a month because that inventory will just sit there and get old. I'd rather ship the older stuff, and then when I get to a month from now, I'll ship him something. Okay. So we allow you to customize the timing of when we do the allocation, in addition to customizing the allocation method, like first in, first out, or first expire, first out, or pick efficiency, or whatever the case may be. So I hope I answered your question. If not, ping us an email and we'll have a one-on-one conversation and talk it through.
Next question: how does the system work with shortages or wrong product in location?
So if there's a shortage, just like you could do today in Sage, you could short ship it. Okay. In fact, we show you on the picking screen. When you first go in there, it's going to say, you've picked 0 of 10, you have a balance due of 10, and maybe you picked 7, okay? And then it's going to say you have a balance due of 3, and that would stay out there. As long as you keep that as an open back order, you could go back into it and ship the 3 later, okay? So that's certainly something that can happen. And if something is in the wrong place, hopefully with barcodes, that doesn't happen. because the way that you move things is you scan the thing and you scan the place where you drop the thing. It's beep, beep. It's pretty simple. It's kind of hard to screw up. Honestly, it's pretty simple and straightforward. But if something does go crazy, there you have the ability to do transfers on the handheld, and you can move it to the place that it's supposed to be. That's a pretty simple thing.
Another question, what if you have EDI 856 ship notices, like MAPADOC? Will it integrate?
Absolutely. We actually have a MAPADOC integration. I didn't list it here, but we do have that. And we actually will be doing another one of these webinars in just a couple of months with SPS Commerce, talking specifically about MAPADOC, okay, and how they integrate. So when the EDI order comes into Sage, it's populated. We can now see it on the handheld. We can go pick it, and we send the data back to shipping data entry. And with our MAPADOC integration, we can feed them data back so you can send the automated notices back to the client. So yes, there is a MAPADOC component here as well. Thank you for asking the question.
If I have multi-bin, can I use it in one warehouse but not in another?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Multi-bin exists at the warehouse level, and we see this a lot, especially with hub and spoke type businesses. So if you have a central hub warehouse that everything comes into, that's your big main warehouse, that probably needs multi-bin. But if you have your spoke warehouses that may be small satellite facilities, they may not be as large or as complex. They may not need it. So multi-bin can be turned on at the warehouse level. Absolutely.
Is there a record of all the transactions that tells me who did them?
You betcha. That ScanForce Management Console that I mentioned before, I showed you that little screen where we looked at the order assignment, where we could assign the orders out to the individuals. The last thing we looked at. Yes, there's a tab on there called the Transactions tab. And every time you hit the send button on a handheld to send data back to Sage, the data always lives in Sage. Always. Okay. We don't keep your data. Sage is the repository. But ScanForce keeps an after image of everything that we send to Sage. So yes, you can go in there and sort it by transaction date or date range or the person or the item code number, and you can see everything that ever happened to an item or an order or a customer or done by a person. You can slice and dice it a million different ways. You can export that to a PDF if you want to email it out as a report, or you could pull it off into an Excel spreadsheet if you wanted to massage the data offline. Lots of options. And guess what? We've got a video recording on the management console as well. And if you're interested, email us and we will send that video to you.
Next question. We send orders through the warehouse instead of the pickers. Is the system able to handle multiple pickers for one order when doing an SO shipping process?
That's the split picking enhancement. So this is sort of programming 101. Programming 101 says if somebody checks out a record like a sales order transaction, you lock the record. Because if two people are in there, I may save something, and then if you come after me and you save something, it might overwrite what I did. Programmers don't like that. So we like to lock the records. That's just kind of programming 101. But split picking allows us to bust the order up, and basically you have a -A, -B, -C, -D, whatever version of that pickable order. And so you can have individuals in the same order simultaneously working together.
Do you have scanners that'll scan a pallet ID tag from the forklift, or does the driver need to get off every time?
I love this question. So I've been in the larger barcoding world for 26 years now, dating myself. So I love talking about the scanners, the physical data collection part of this. Yes, we represent Zebra Technologies. We're an authorized Zebra reseller. So anything in the Zebra line, we can provide. So there's different scan engines that can go in these scanners. The picture of one that I showed you earlier, it can have two different scan engines, a standard range and an advanced long range. The standard range, I call it arm's length scanning. So if you could walk up to something and touch it, that's about the distance you're going to be scanning. But you're right. If you have guys on forklifts, if you want to interested in that pallet tracking thing where guys are just zipping around all day and they never get off their forklift, that won't work. They can't read it. So we put an advanced long range scan engine in there and they can hit something out in front of their forks. We have to have the right size barcode for it, of course, but we can control that. And we'll scan it and then they can drop it, scan the place where they're dropping it. We marry the two things together and now that pallet's been moved and they never have to get off the forklift. So that's a good question.
Well, I probably should have gone back to this when you were talking about split picking, but How many pickers can use split picking at the same time?
A bunch. I don't know that we've ever reached a theoretical max on that.
All right. Can I group orders from different customers on a wave pick?
Oh yeah, sure. I know the example that I gave you was one customer, I think, and they ordered 5 things. Yeah. So I probably didn't make my example expansive enough. So yes, you can group different customers on the same wave. And if they all ordered the same fast move, you have like your top 10 movers or whatever, your high velocity items. If those are spread across those orders, yes, you could go to that location one time, pick enough for all of those different customers. And then when we get to the second step, which is checking packing, we'll bust it apart and put things in different boxes for different customers.
All right. Um, there is a last question here, but someone said they got here late. There will be a recording of this video. Will go out to everybody who registered in the next 24 to 48 hours. So you'll be able to catch up on anything you missed and also share it with any other stakeholders that you believe would benefit from this. Next and final question that I've got right now is, can the image capture be used for receiving as well?
Oh, yes. So what I described was called outbound image capture. That is an enhancement unto itself that is used in the sales order shipping side of the house. But there's one called inbound image capture as well that could use during receiving. It's kind of cool because it could show you, like, if you have damaged goods, you could take a picture of the crate, the thing inside that's broken, whatever. But I think one of the cooler uses is because obviously not every shipment that comes in has damaged goods, right? But every shipment that comes in has paperwork, an invoice, a copy of a packing list or a bill of lading or something. Imagine taking a picture with the scanner, digitizing that document the same way you would take a picture of like a check if you're doing mobile banking. You just snap a picture of it. That document is saved in Sage forever. Now you don't have to save paper documents anymore. Right in the recycling bin. And then if purchasing or accounting or anybody needs it, they just type in the PO number and boom, there's all the pictures of that shipment. There's, by the way, there's also a different one called manufacturing image capture. So if you're doing PM or bill of materials and you want to take pictures along the way, we can take pictures there too. So there's actually 3 different image capture enhancements: inbound, outbound, and manufacturing.
All right, that is all the questions I see.
All right, that must mean I did a really good job explaining it. All right, thanks, Woody. I appreciate your help, and I appreciate all of you that stuck with us through the whole thing. I hope you found some value. Hope you found somewhere you could add some efficiencies to your warehouse. I think we should turn this into a drinking game. Every time Brian says efficiency, everybody takes a drink. We'd all be sloppy drunk by the end. But that's what ScanForce does. Not get you sloppy drunk, but add a lot of efficiencies. Okay, so there's my phone number. There's my email. Ping me. Again, my name is Brian. Just call us up, ask for Brian. You'll get me, and I'll be able to talk to you one-on-one. We'll figure out exactly what your needs are and how ScanForce can help. Thanks again, and I hope you join us for another webinar soon.